Hi everyone, it's Jane Mamolmy. Thanks for joining me for another scrapbook process video. Today I'm making a double layout using the Make It From Your Heart Volume 3 as my inspiration. I love this book because it's full of sketches and it includes all the cutting guides and everything if you want. I tend to use it just as inspiration and I might cut some of the things it suggests. So that's what I did here. I changed the sizes a little bit to fit my photos, but I used some papers from my stash, and as you can see, there's really not a whole lot to the layout, the foundation. There's just a couple of different patterns, and it's very simple, but I'm going to be adding a lot of Cricut cuts. Now, it bothered me that that right side was shorter than the left, and I had made it shorter because my photos are smaller than that layout suggested. So what I thought is I could make it taller to kind of help with what bothered me, and then put my title across the top. And this slim alpha die set was the perfect height. I wanted to kind of test it out first, and it ended up being perfect. I cut out a bunch of Cricut shapes. The trees are from the Wander Cricut collection, and the flower and leaves were from the Stitched Together Cricut collection. Both are from Close to My Heart. Now I'm starting with Kraft as my background, and I don't often do that, and it was a little bit dark for me, but I thought that if I added a little bit of white splatter, that would help to brighten it up and add some contrast. So I'm doing that, and I didn't want to move the layers, even though there's not that many of them, but I didn't feel like moving everything. So I didn't lift it up and put my craft mat underneath everything. I'm just using this smaller size craft mat to kind of move around where I need it. I let all of that dry, and then I'm going to use my Versamats to line my papers up. So I'm lining my background page up on the Versamat and measuring down, I think it was 2 1/4 or 2.5 inches or so. So that way I knew that both sides were going to be the same distance from the top. And if you were following that sketch exactly, it tells you how far down to put your different layers. I don't think I followed that exactly, but still it just gives you that nice guideline and something to start with. I decided I wanted a little more splatter over here on these pattern papers, so I'm going to do that and let it dry again, and then get everything back in place. And now I'm going to start bringing in those Cricut cuts. Now I know that that small 3x4 on the right is going to be a flip flap, and I was showing you that in the beginning where I have 2 more photos to add, and I'm going to add them in flip flaps. And at the end of the video, I'm going to show you how to do that. It's really a great way to add extra photos to your layout, but still keep with a design aesthetic that you're wanting. So as you can see, I cut out a bunch of these trees, and some of them are different sizes. So these ones I'm cutting now are a little bit smaller than the ones I laid down first. And I just cut them in half to get some layered behind and some on the side. And then I cut out a couple more for the other side. And at the end where I show my still photos and close-ups of this, you'll see I ended up adding a couple more too, because when I came back to this and looked, it looked a little off balance, and I added just a couple more trees on each page. Now these flowers are the ones that are from the Stitched Together collection, and I cut them in wild berry, which matches my hat perfectly, and it happens to be the gorgeous color of the year from Close to My Heart. Now you'll see that I'm adding the flowers next to the photos where I'm wearing the hat, and that's because you have to look at the colors in the photos when you're forming your visual triangles, because your photos help with all of that color and drawing your eye across the page, and I wanted them to be a part of those clusters. So now I'm showing you that on that first cluster of trees, I inked on them. I kind of inked around the edges to make them darker, and so I'm showing you how I did that. Now these are very delicate, so it's not going to be perfect, and I didn't get just the edges. I really got kind of on top of the tree too, and it actually adds a really cool, like kind of weathered, almost leathery look. So I did that to all of the trees. It does take a bit of extra time, but I think the end result is totally worth it. So the leaves are even more delicate, so I just kind of pounced the sponge on top of it on top of the mat, which as you can see is very dirty from all of my Christmas card making. But hey, it's all dried and it still works. So I'm going to do that to all of the leaves, all of the trees, and then I also did it to the wild berry flowers. So now I'm bringing in the centers of the flowers, and I'm using this Stickles glitter gel to add just a little bit of glitter to the center of each flower. I'm just using my fingers. I think that was the best tool for me to use in this instance because they're just such small little spots. And hey, sometimes our fingers are our best tools, right? So I'm going to finish those, and then I'm going to set that aside to dry. And then I had this Keep It Wild pennant, which was also from the Wander Cricut collection, and it just brought in too much more pink. I didn't want that bold of a statement. So what I did was I took the Keep It Wild letters, which were supposed to be the negative space from that pennant banner, and I added those down here, and I think that that works just perfectly. Now, the Keep It is really tiny, so just be careful. I actually lost a couple of the letters on the floor a couple of times. I did find them, but just be careful because they're so tiny if you cut them at this size. But it did work well, and I inked those as well. Again, just like the leaves, I just kind of pounced on them. Now I brought in this black ore cardstock. It is gorgeous cardstock. It's got this beautiful shimmer to it, which you really can't appreciate on video, but just trust me, it is beautiful. I thought I wanted something like kind of a dark charcoal. I didn't want as stark as black, and the black ore really works well because it's kind of a soft black with all the shimmer in it. It almost makes it like a charcoaly black. So it works out perfectly. It didn't overwhelm. And don't you just love that slim alphabet? I love it. It allows you to fill in a tall space, but they're so narrow that you can fit long words, and flat irons is a pretty long word. So it was just perfect. I love the look of it on this layout. Now I wanted it to say the flat irons because that is where we hiked. It's a gorgeous hike in Boulder, Colorado, which is near where we live, and it is just stunning, stunning views and a really great hike to boot. So I wanted it to say the, but not as big. So I just pulled my simple serif alphabet stamp set and spelled out the and lined it up right sideways next to flat irons, and I think that looks really, really nice. So now I'm going to start gluing all of my Cricut pieces together. I'm not going to show you everything, but I just wanted to show you some tips. Using tweezers can help, such as here, it helps you keep your fingers out of the way. And if you're using liquid glue on these flower centers, you just need a teeny tiny little drop. So the flowers were pretty easy to put together. The trees were a little more difficult because they are so delicate and such thin lines, but this Barely Art glue works really well. I've talked about it before, but I really love it because it's got such a thin tip and it does not clog. I'm going to go ahead and put some of these trees on foam tape. I'm using a thin 3D foam tape, so it just adds a little bit of bulk, and it comes in wide and skinny, so I'm using kind of a combo of both, but it adds just that little bit of dimension, which is really lovely. So I'm going to do that on both sides, and then I'm going to bring in some sparkles. I'm just using the clear sparkles, and I'm putting a few around each of the clusters, kind of just scattered in a little visual triangle around each cluster. And I thought that that was just the touch it needed. It didn't need a lot. This is, it's a simple design, but then there's a lot going on because those Cricut cuts are so intricate. So I didn't want to distract with many more embellishments. I thought I might want one down by the wild, but decided not to. I used that same thin tip on the Barely Art glue to line up wild, and you can see I'm using my T-square ruler. I love that it catches on the edge of the Versamat, so it really helps you make sure that it's straight. You can do it just on the side of your layout too if you want, but it's nice that it catches easily on the mat. So I'm putting this right side in my page protector because that's how we're going to add the flip flap. So these are the 3x4 flip flaps, and they come in lots of sizes: 2x2, 3x3, 4x4, 3x4, 4x6, 5x7, even 6x12 and 8x12 to fit bigger paraphernalia or make larger flap out pages. But you're just going to slide them in and make sure the back one's upside down because it's going to flip up. The sticky's going to be on the front because you're going to fold it over like this, and it's going to flip up. So open it up and peel that backing off. It's very easy to peel off, but it's a really, really strong adhesive. So make sure your layout is all the way in and straight in your page protector, and then you're just going to line it up right over the photo that it's going to go over, and then you're pretty much done. I'm going to push it down, open it up, and push the sticky side, and there you go. Make sure that you have the photo you want on top set aside, because what you actually glue to the page is going to end up being on the bottom. So here is what that page looks like. You've got the flap that opens, and it's a fun little interactive element. And let's look at everything close up. Those very intricate Cricut cuts are so fun, and I love the pop of color with all of these outdoor kind of rustic colors. It's just so unexpected, and then of course goes with my hat. And here is the other side. So I really love how this turned out, and I hope you did too. I'm going to leave some still shots at the end here. And if you have not already subscribed to my channel, I hope you'll consider doing so and hit that like button. And if you're already a subscriber, thank you so much for coming back. I really, really appreciate all of you watching my videos. It really is a pleasure to create these, and I love reading your comments. I read each and every one, so thank you so much for doing that. Here are a couple of other videos I think you might enjoy, and thanks so much for watching. I hope you have a wonderful day.